great good fortune. I was in Pennsylvania at a workshop, and we went to go visit a church. I had been told that this church was it was a little chapel. And I've told some of you all this story before, but I'm getting older and I repeat myself, so bear with me. It was a little chapel at a Russian Orthodox monastery in Pennsylvania. And the chapel was probably not as large as St. Francis. It was just a wonderful little place. And you walk in, oldest Russian Orthodox monastery in the United States, by the way. So walk in, and the place is covered on the inside with Russian icons. The walls are covered. The ceiling has been painted as an icon. The altar rail has icons. They don't have altar rails. They have iconostasis, sort of a wall, but the icons along it. The sides of the pews have icons on them. Even the light fixtures had little icons attached as they came out. And there was so much, and much of it was done in gold, real gold, by the way, and so it was bright and shiny, and I just kept looking around, and there was so much to see. There was no place where your eye could rest, because as soon as you looked at this, you wanted to look at that, and as soon as you looked at that, you wanted to look at that, and after about 4 or 5 minutes of looking around, I noticed my eyes began to hurt, because I was just looking at so much stuff. And after 10 minutes of just looking at everything, it really became a little painful. And after 12 or 13 minutes, I found myself doing this in the church to try to just control this flood of stuff coming in. And there was an elderly monk there. He'd been there for 1,000,000 years. And I went over to the monk and I said, "Your chapel is gorgeous. It's just so beautiful, but it hurts to be in here. And you're not going to get lots of visitors coming in. Why would you do this to your chapel?" And without missing a beat, he looked at me and he said, "What do you think heaven will be like, if not painful in its beauty?" And at that moment, I just went, "Oh, yeah, okay." It's a little bit like the scene in our Old Testament lesson today. Isaiah of Jerusalem, and by the way, there's 3 or 4 Isaiahs, we think. Scholars aren't sure. We think that there's a couple different Isaiah folks writing, and their stuff got collected all in one book named Isaiah. But at least the first one, Isaiah of Jerusalem, is not a priest, just a layperson, just a faithful, committed follower of God. And one day he has a vision. And in his vision, he's taken up, whether this is a vision or literal, he's taken up into heaven and admitted into the throne room of God. And as he walks in, there is God seated on the high throne at the back of the throne room. And before God are all the trappings of Middle Eastern kings, and there are seraphs. Seraphim, the I am ending is how you make plurals in Hebrew. So there are seraphs flying around. Now, seraphs are one of the higher orders of angels. It's angels and archangels and seraphs, or cherubs and seraphs, and it goes on up. But seraphs, for those of you who are into superhero comics, seraphs are like the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, that Marvel thing. They're beings whose body is completely made out of flames. They're fire beings. So if you can imagine somebody who looks like a human being, but their body is completely flames. And when they're painted always with flames of fire around them. They're easy to spot in icons because they're the angels who look like they're on fire. And so the seraphs are flying back and forth, and they have 6 wings, and with 2 they cover their face, and with 2 they cover their feet. When we're all adults, I'll explain that part to you later. And with 2 they cover they fly, and they chant, holy, holy, holy Lord, God of power and might, which, by the way, I hope sounds moderately familiar to you all, because we'll say words like that here in just a few minutes. But that word holy, kavod, kavod, kavod. No, sorry, kavod is the next one. Glory. Kadesh, 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 Kadesh. It's a Hebrew word. Holy. It means marvelous. It means fantastic. It's what happens the first time you see the Grand Canyon, or the first time those of us who are newcomers to Texas saw one of those Texas sunsets. You know the ones I mean? Then you just look at it and you go, holy, holy, holy. The first time a parent looks down and sees their child, and you are just overcome with the miracle of that moment, that's Kadesh. The first time when a couple stand in church or wherever it is and they recite their marriage vows at their wedding, and the look that the bride gives the bridegroom or the bridegroom gives the bride, that's holy. That's special. That's wonderful. That's marvelous. It's a good translation, holy. It is other. It is separate. It's not the ordinary kind of stuff. It's really good. And so when these seraphs are proclaiming God, the only word they can use is holy, holy, holy. Heaven and earth are full of your power. Glory be to God on high. Now there's another good Hebrew word. That's the first one, kavod. Glory. Glory to God. And in Hebrew, that word, glory, that's a big word. It's right up there with holy. It's that specialness. It's that wonderfulness. There is something about glory that just doesn't translate at all into the English word glory. In Hebrew, when you say glory, you better be standing up or kneeling down. It's not a word you can just say sitting around talking. It's a special word. And so here's Isaiah, and he's caught up in this vision, and he sees the seraphs flying around chanting, glory, holy, holy. And Isaiah says, I'm in so much trouble. I do not belong here. I'm just an ordinary, average person. I am a man of unclean lips, and I am from a people of unclean lips. I'm just your ordinary Joe. And one of the seraphs comes over, and he takes out tongs, and he grabs a coal out of the fire, and he runs over to Isaiah, and he says, you think you're just average? You think you're not worthy of being here? And he touches the coal to his lips, and he says, you have now been made special. You've been cleansed. You're now worthy of being here. Now, I don't know about you, but I can promise you that this is true about me. That when I went to my high school class reunion and they found out I had become a priest, there was both a case of real nerves among the people I graduated from high school with, and a lot of laughter. Really? Him? If you ever wonder if you belong here, if you ever wonder that you can do anything in the church, here's this scene. You're Isaiah now. And God is making you clean. And then in the vision, God says, now I've got work to do, and I need somebody to work for me. I wonder who I'm going to get. And Isaiah, just overcome, stands up, and he hollers out, again, sorry, it's in Hebrew, Hineni, which is that wonderful Hebrew word, which means, here I am. Remember, it's what they say in the Israeli army today, in the Israeli army, when they're doing the roll call, and they want to know if everybody in the unit is there, and they call out your name, Smith, Jones, and you stand up and you say, Hineni, here I am. And it doesn't just mean I'm here. It means I'm here, I've packed my pack, my My gun is loaded and cleaned. I am ready for duty. I am reporting ready for duty. I'm ready to go right now, this very second. What do you need? Let's go. It's probably what the coach tries to get the football players to say, right? The game is about to start. We're ready to go. Which, if you want to start getting the team to say he may need it, good on you. But it's a special match. There is not a single, actually there's one instance, and there's a theological reason for that. But other than this one instance, where the Bible is trying to make a special point, every single time in the Old Testament that somebody says, Hineni, it's special and wonderful and magical and positive. Only once is it a bad thing. And it turns out it's not really a bad thing, but there's a whole lot more to the story about why it ends up being a good thing. But that's another sermon. So we've got glory and wonder and awe and holiness, and then Isaiah going, yep, I'll go, you bet. And that's us. The New Testament lesson today is about Jesus calling the disciples. And he's out fishing. And they can't fish with a dern. They've worked all night long and they caught nothing. Which, by the way, they're not going to be in the fishing business very long at this rate, right? They are on their way to bankruptcy quick, to hunger even quicker. And all of a sudden, Jesus says, I got it. Just let down your nets. It'll be okay. And they do. And he grabs Simon Peter and James and John, and he calls them. And he says, I have work for you to do, which does not involve fishing out on the lake. From now on, we have more important work to do. You're going to be fishing for people. Some of us remember the older translations. I will make you fishers of men. Fishing for people is actually a better translation of the Greek, I'm afraid. But the point is, Jesus says to these people, I have better and more important work for you to do. Come on. And they drop everything and follow him. Now, if you've ever wondered if God has anything for you to do, if you've ever wondered, why am I still here? If you've ever wondered, I just have an ordinary kind of life, I wonder what I'm going to be called to do. I'm wondering if you've ever wondered if the church can survive without you. God is calling you this very day. Not to work in the church, although some of us will be called that way. Not to be necessarily to be a missionary to Africa, although some of us may be called there. Personally, that's something I'm incredibly grateful God has never called me to do. I'm not a missionary to Africa. My wife, yeah, she hadn't been to Africa, but she's been down to Latin America, and she's led mission trips, and that's her thing, and once or twice a year she'll go off and do that. Good for her. Me? Nope. I'm called to Central Texas. Thank you, God. But we are all called. We're called to be disciples. We're called to be followers. We're called to serve the God of holiness. We're called to serve the God of glory. In a couple minutes, we will celebrate communion, and we'll break the bread and share the cup. And in those simple acts of a few of us gathered together here in Temple, Texas, the glory of God will break in to this world, and the wonder of God will be shown, and the holiness of God will be celebrated. Now, right after the church, some of us will run right across the way into the great hall, and we'll make up sack lunches and take them down to the Feed My Sheep folks, and there will be people who eat today because of what we do. Some of us won't be able to stay. But whether you can stay or not, know that you've been called this day to serve the great God, the Holy One, that you participate in the inbreaking of God's ways in this world. If you've ever wondered if God has a plan for you, if God has something that he wants you to do, I'm telling you today, yes. Do I know the details? Nope. I'm not God. But I can promise you this, that if you are alive, and most of us are this morning, not everybody, but if you're alive, God has a purpose for you. If you're alive, God has something that God needs your help with. Now, as a congregation, that's our next challenge. We're going to figure that out, and we're going to move in that direction. It won't be easy, it won't be cheap, and it won't be obvious. But we'll do it. We have all the money we need. We have all the people we need. Oh, it'd be nice to have more money. It'd be nice to have more people. But those are things we'll get along the way. We've got enough people. We've got enough money to do what we need to do now. To be the followers of God. We have everything we need. We are the people called. And the great Holy Lord, who is about to break into this place, is calling us all